Hello. Okay, so we are on Stabilisation A, which is your very first workout, so welcome. We are going to be concentrating in this on building stability around the key joint areas, particularly the shoulders, the pelvis, the knees and the spine, or the core in general. Many of these exercises in this workout are going to turn up later on in your warm-ups because they are mobility exercises or dynamic stretches. So you will see these again. I'm going to run through these in real time and I'm going to run through the whole thing once, but you might find that you want to come back and do second sets of everything, and that's absolutely fine. In fact, I would encourage it. All of the movements come in sets of tri-sets of 3 exercises. So you can always do those 3, pause, and then go back and repeat those 3 for a second set. So we're going to start with some posture and some breathing work, because I think it's really important to get that going. Once you've set everything right to start with, then every movement from then on is going to be working on your posture. So I want you to start with just your feet underneath your hips. Knees are slightly soft, which means they're not locked out. The hips are over the ankles, the shoulders are over the hips, and the ears are above the shoulders. It's ideally where you want to be. I want you to picture your pelvis as having 2 points on the hips here, which you want to be level, and also 2 points through the pubic bone and your tailbone. And I want you to imagine that between those 4 points is like a trampoline or a hammock, because that's your pelvic floor. And I want you to imagine putting a little bit of tension through there, maybe drawing up from the centre up towards your belly button. And that's your pelvic floor engaging. This is really important. Your pelvic floor is part of your core, along with your diaphragm at the top and your TVA muscles around it. They work to compact your insides, basically. So if you are trying to do balance, or you're trying to lift something and all your guts are slopping around inside you, it's going to be unwieldy. It's like trying to pick up a sandbag rather than a dumbbell. It's much harder to pick up an irregular object where the weight shifts. So when you engage your core, you're compacting it all and keeping it strong in the same place. And part of engaging your core is engaging your pelvic floor, which I've just talked you through. If you engage your pelvic floor fully all the time, you're going to be walking around like a duck. You want to be engaged to about 20%, which is comfortable. It's switched on, but it's not going to be hard work. It's not going to be inhibiting your movement. Now the other side of that is your diaphragm. So we're going to do a quick breathing exercise. We're going to take a deep breath in, right down into the belly. And then breathe out quite hard. You're going to do like 3 or 4 of these. Now your diaphragm starts to engage and be a little bit more active. When you are lifting weights or even doing a hard body weight exercise later in the program, I'll say to you to exhale on the exertion. And this is what I'm talking about. It's about engaging the diaphragm and making a really strong breath in order to brace your core. I might also say brace your core. That's what I'm talking about. So we're going to start with the shoulders. This little sequence I call shrug, push, rotate. You'll see why. We're going to start by shrugging the shoulders up to the ears and then dropping them down under control. I'm going to do about 10 of these. I want you to feel, as you're doing it, that your shoulder blades are engaging on your back. So you can feel your shoulder blades sliding up and down. You can also do this with your hands in front if that helps, because sometimes watching your hands go up and down gives you the visual that helps you connect with your shoulder blades. So we're going to do 10 shrugs, and then we're going to do 10 pushes. I want you to imagine you're pushing open a door. but your body stays still. So your shoulder blades are going to do this on your back a little bit. They're just going to wing slightly. And then we're going to lock them in. So you push and then you pull back and feel those shoulder blades really tightening onto your back. That's the kind of engagement that we use on our shoulders when we're lifting something heavy or if we're doing a pull-up. Because you need your shoulder blades to be firmly attached to your body. Really cool anatomy fact here. Your arms are not attached to your body by a bony joint except for on the collarbone here. The rest of everything that holds your arm on is the muscle around your shoulder blade or the muscles of your upper back. So when we sit at desks like this all day, or we just sit around like this all day, the muscles that support the shoulder blade become weak. And then we go to lift something heavy in the gym or we go to do a pull-up and we end up with a rotator cuff injury because those muscles weren't ready for that. So that's why we're doing this. This is the rotate part of a shrug, push, rotate. Imagine you're serving somebody cake and then you go, no, these are my cakes. Your shoulder blade should be rotating on your back so you can feel as they come forward and lock back. Now this isn't going to work on making them very strong, but it is going to work on locating them. We're going to do some more work later that will work on their strength, particularly if you work on the pull-up sequence, which includes the scapular pull-ups, which are amazing for developing that kind of strength. But you're not going to get anywhere near a scapular pull-up if you haven't found these muscles to start with. So that's the shrug, push, rotate. That counts as one exercise. We're now going to go for a bigger arm movement. This I've called open, close, up, down. Again, it's possibly self-explanatory. Open, close. So we're just going to do 10 of these. Feel the muscles of the back engage. Pull back that little bit more to get a dynamic stretch on the chest. Why not while we're here? In fact, this movement will turn up in warm-ups labelled as a dynamic pec stretch because that's what it is. So we've done 10 of those. I've lost count, we've probably done 10. We're going to do ups and downs. Lead with the palm. So the palm of the hand comes up, palm of the hand goes down. And we're just finding the movement when we move the whole arm. Now when you're doing this, your shoulder blades are probably quite well locked down now. So this movement should be coming from the socket of the arm, not from the upper back. This is all ball and socket shoulder joint. Okay, now we're going to do some circles. I'm going to stand up. You might be able to still do this kneeling. It depends how long your arms are. We're going to do a circle with the elbow, circle with the arm, circle with the elbow, circle with the arm. Keep rolling through, make it a nice flow. And then we're going to go the other way. Try and make the circles as flat as you can with minimum rotation from the body as you can. You can make the circles really big by turning into them, but you're not actually working your shoulder joint. You can also be really lazy and make them not as big as you could go. Feel out your range of motion. I've probably done too many on that side now. Okay, so that's your first set of 3. If you want to go back and do another set of those because that's what you're going to do, then you can go ahead and do that. The next set is a bar or band over the head. So I'm going to do this with a band. This is just a standard stretchy latex resistance band. You can also do this with a barbell bar or any other long straight walking stick, whatever you've got lying around the house. I like using these because they stretch out a little, so they give you a little bit of give. At the same time, however, they do allow you to cheat. So try to keep the hands as close together as you can. But as I come to the top of this, I'm going to keep my elbows as straight as I can. I'm going to come over. So even if your hands do come apart a little bit more, which they will on a band, it's the band is resisting a little bit, so it's encouraging you to improve that mobility. I'm going to show you with a bar. So, same kind of thing, but as you can see, I can't slide my hands in, and this is actually a little bit short. There, it's better. So I need to be able to keep my elbows straight. And you may find after you've done maybe 5 passes that you can bring your hands closer together and do the next 5 with a shorter distance. That's up to you. Right, the next one, we're going to do a plank. But don't get too excited, we're going to do a half plank because I want you to focus on what your upper body is doing for now. I don't want you to be too focused on the core. So we're going to go into an elbow plank. So my elbows are on the floor. In fact, start on the floor. Just lie on the floor with the belly down and the hands in front. Elbows are underneath the shoulders. I want you to think about broadening your shoulders as if you're trying to lift your spine up between your shoulder blades. Now I'm going to lift onto the knees, just a touch. I'm just lifting my belly like 2-3 inches off the floor to engage the core, but I'm really focusing on where my shoulders are. Keeping the broadening in the shoulder blades, keeping the strength in that particular area. We're going to hold this for some number of time, probably 20 to 30 seconds, and when you're ready, release. So even if you normally are comfortable going into a full plank, try it in the half plank and work on the upper body because that's where I want you to focus for this set. Right, the last one on the set 2 is an arm rotation with the shoulder blade locked. So I want you to clamp your shoulder blade down to your body, down to your back. Maybe even put your palm into a fist with the thumb up and rotate the thumb from the floor to the ceiling, but without moving the shoulder blade. So once again, we're working on the ball and socket joint of the shoulder. Maybe increase the range of motion, see how far back that thumb will go without having to release the shoulder blade. And on the other side, same, lock in the shoulder blade, rotate the arm without involving the shoulder. So if I release my shoulder blade, you can see I can get a bigger range of motion, but my shoulder comes into it. If I lock my shoulder blade down, smaller range of motion, but all of that work is coming from my ball and socket joint. Okay, so that's set 3, that's set 2. And if you want to go back and do your reps of that, then pause or rewind or both and do that. So now we're going to look more at the pelvis and the lower spine. We're going to start with a forward fold. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to hinge at the hip and keep my back pretty straight. I'm going to put my hands on my hips, but you might find that running your hands down your legs helps. Knees are slightly bent so that you're not making a hamstring stretch out of this. Keeping the back as straight as possible, we're going to fold forward, and then when you are at the bottom of where you can go straight, we're just going to hang out here. Breathing down into the belly nice and steady, and providing your knees are soft, you should be feeling the stretch here in your low back. When you're ready, placing the hands on the hips, bring yourself up to horizontal, and with a straight back come up. This is really important. We're not going to do that roll up thing because that tends to pinch the discs in between your vertebrae. Nobody wants that. So we'll do another one just for giggles. So again, I'm going to keep my hands on my hips, but you can slide your hands down your legs if you need that support. I'm going to slowly come forward, under control. When we get to the bottom, we're just going to hang out here. You can hold onto your elbows if you like to give yourself an extra pull. Keep breathing. And then when you're ready, we're just going to come up, straight back, hinging at the hips, bringing the hips in. So our next one is a pelvic tilt. We're going to lie down on the floor with the feet near the hips, and you'll automatically get a little mouse hole under your back. So what we're going to do here is we're going to push down, squash the mouse. Poor mouse, maybe he wasn't in. So we're pressing the low back into the floor as if you were trying to make a print. At the same time, you're kind of tucking your tail, you're engaging your lower abs here. So we're using all the muscles that you use to hold your pelvis in an appropriate position. One common postural issue that people have in their pelvis is the anterior tilt, where the pelvis is tipped and basically you stick your bum out and you get a hollow in your lower back. So this works the muscles that are necessary to correct that. We're just waking them up. Okay, the next one is a clam. It's my version of a clam, which is slightly different to what you'll see some people do. It works the glutes around here, so we're looking at gluteus medius and also the piriformis underneath there. So we're waking up the hip rotators, and hip rotators are really important for getting the line of your thigh correct in your stance. I'm going to show you this because science. When you stand up in good posture, your knees point the same way as your toes and your hips are broad and open. But if your hip rotators are weak, they will allow you to roll your thighs in. Your knees might knock together. You might not even really notice that your knees knock together, but what you will notice, I'll show you from the side, is that when I roll my knees in, it's impossible for my pelvis to stay in good engagement. So again, I get that hyperlordosis in the low back. I want you to lie on your side, and it's probably best to keep your head down. I'm going to keep wanting to put it up because I'm talking, but I'm going to resist myself. The bottom leg is going to be straight, and this is what's different, because quite a lot of people do this in this position, but it doesn't give you as good a range of motion on that hip. So we're going to keep the bottom leg straight, but the top leg we're going to step the foot in just behind that knee and then drop the knee to the floor. Now when I lift up here, I'm engaging these outer muscles on the hip, and I'm getting a slightly bigger range of motion because I'm not trying to rest it on the other leg. This might feel particularly hard, and a lot of people compensate and use different sections of muscle. So we're really going to work around these to get a good strength in the hip rotators, because that will affect your posture and it will affect your strength and your form for things like squats. So it's definitely something to work on, and I tend to use this as part of my warm-up if I'm going to be squatting. It's a really good way of making sure that your glutes engage properly through the exercise. So when we've done 10 of those, which I'm guessing we've probably done, we're going to go to the other side, and we're going to do 10 on the other side. Sometimes helps to just put your thumb into the side of your glutes to feel it. The piriformis is the muscle that makes the dimple in the side of your bum. So if you put your hand roughly where you'd expect that to be, you can feel it when it fires. Keep breathing, even if you're counting. It's very common to hold your breath when you count. Try to avoid it. Okay, so that is that set done. Again, you can rewind and do another set of them. I'm going to move on to the next one. We're going to start with what I call a VMO lift. The VMO is a muscle in here. It controls the tracking of your kneecap, and it's quite commonly weaker than its friend on the outside, and that causes the kneecap to track awkwardly, and that can sometimes cause pain in things like squats or if you're going downstairs and that sort of thing. So this is to wake that guy up. You're going to be lying with your feet out. Now normally your feet would be here, but you're going to rotate one foot to 45 degrees. So lying on the floor, rotate a foot out to 45 degrees and then just a little lift up. It doesn't need to be a massive lift. If you make the movement big, then some of the other big muscles will jump in and steal the show. So this is a really small, it's quite a therapeutic lift. It's in isolation, which makes it not very functional. But this is one of those exercises, like many of the ones in this set, that are designed to build into your functional movement and make it better. So when you've done a set on one leg, just swap round, do the other leg. And you should really feel that line up the inside front of your thigh starting to work a little bit. So that's that guy. Next we're going to do is an alternate toe touch. This is one of my favourite dynamic stretches for a warm-up. We're going to start in a big cross position and literally we're going to touch the alternate toe. So this is a dynamic stretch for your hamstrings. We're also working through the core. We're working on a core rotation. And it gets you moving and flowing through. Pelvis comes back as you touch the toe. And again, that means that we're bringing in a hip hinge, which is going to come into a lot of our lifting as well. Okay, now we're going to go for a squat to overhead reach. We're going to actually start with the overhead reach. So you're going to stand reaching upwards. Feet are slightly outside hip width apart. We're going to swing the arms back, come into a squat and up. Your squat might not be very deep to start with because this is a warm-up mobility exercise. It might get deeper through the set. And that's that set. So again, you can do those ones again, and then we'll move on. So we're going to do a step back with a diagonal reach, standing nice and square, nice and tall. We're going to step back in a straight line, we're going to reach to the opposite side, then we're going to swing down. So this is opening up through the front of the core. It's working a little bit on balance. You're also learning to step backwards in a straight line as if your feet were on tracks and building that pattern into your body. That's useful because we use it in things like lunges and even in walking, things like farmers' walks. It's amazing the number of people that I work with or just come across who don't walk with their feet in straight lines, or who step across or out or around, or do very odd things with their gait. So helping yourself to build those kind of habits is really useful. From here we are going to go into knee to chest. So we're just going to stand and then we're going to bring the knee up, and it's almost like, well it is, it's a standing crunch, so that we're going to lean into the knee. So we're using the core and the hip flexor, but we're also staying stood upright. It's a little bit kinder on the spine than ab curls. It's a little bit easier on the core than ab curls. But you're reminding your core how it can engage when you're upright, which is useful. Now we're going to go to Superman. Superman, lie on the floor. You can start with your hands by your shoulders, and we're just going to raise the shoulders off the floor and down. If you feel like you're pinching in on your back and hauling in on your low back, you're going too high. Think about pressing both your pubic bone and your belly button into the floor as you lift. If you're happy with your upper body, you can lift your lower body too. And if this is too easy, bring your arms in front for a full blown Superman. Think about pressing down into the floor and not allowing yourself to pinch the low back. It's very tempting, especially when you start lifting your legs. That's that set. Final set. We're going to start with a little twist from a boat position. Now your boat position can be here with your feet on the floor and then we lean back. You could float those toes or you could extend the legs. It's entirely up to you. We're going to start here and we're going to do a rotation and touch the floor behind. So you're using your core to keep yourself strong. Again, if you straighten those legs, it's harder. So we're building in a little bit of core strength, a little tiny bit of ab work there, just for giggles. While we're talking about ab work just for giggles, we're going to move on to a reverse crunch. Reverse crunches are weird and hard to get hold of to start with. But again, we're engaging these low abs that we use for balancing the pelvis. So from this position with the feet to the ceiling, we're going to lift the feet up. I'm going to try to keep my head on the floor. I always want to lift my head up. We're just going to press the soles of the feet towards the ceiling. I'm not even trying to get my tail off the floor at the moment, I'm just pushing. You may find as you get stronger you can get a bigger lift there. I'm not going to encourage that in the stability phase. It's like the beginning of where you'd go if you were rolling back into like a plough position, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to push to the ceiling. We're just finding those lower abs. That's all we need to do for now because this is stability phase. The last thing we are going to do is an exercise I like to call massive circles. You'll see why. We're going to stand with a broad stance, we're going to reach up. We're going to lean sideways and then we're going to fold, come across, come up, lean sideways, come up, then we're going to reverse. So we're making a huge circle. We're adding a little oblique stretch, some low back and hamstrings, and the other side, but it's really dynamic and we're really opening the core up. So that is Stability A for you. I hope you enjoy it and see how you get on.